Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Beckett. Beckett is a thriller film that tells the story of a man named Beckett, an American tourist that's traveling across Greece with his girlfriend April while on vacation. The trip takes a turn for the worse when Beckett falls asleep at the wheel of the vehicle they're both driving in together, which causes a serious car accident resulting in Beckett being severely physically injured and his girlfriend April dying at the scene. Shortly before presumably passing out at the scene of the accident, Beckett witnesses something take place that he shouldn't have seen, which results in a manhunt being set out against him shortly after he's discharged from the hospital. This forces Beckett to go on the run across Greece with little more than his American passport as he tries to get to the American embassy in Athens in an attempt to clear his name before his pursuers catch up to him. So as you can probably tell from the title alone, this movie is largely a one-man show in terms of characters. There are other characters here and there spread out throughout the story, but they're pretty inconsequential to the plot for the most part. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm mostly just going to be talking about Beckett. John David Washington plays the lead role of Beckett in this movie, and I thought for the most part he did a pretty good job in the role. There are a few things that I think could have been done better with his character, but I mostly attribute that to the way he was written as opposed to the way he was acted. On one hand, I do like the fact that he's sort of a guy who's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I think the way the filmmakers demonstrated his increased panic reactions as he tries to understand everything that's happening around him while navigating a foreign country at the same time was really well done. But on the other hand, if you really think about it, this movie's setup is kind of a fluke. If Beckett hadn't caused that car accident and hadn't seen what he had seen, then there wouldn't be a point to this movie in the first place. I also thought it was weird how his character endured a crazy amount of physical punishment throughout the story. He's able to get up from his hospital bed despite his physical injuries, one of which involves a broken arm, and he's able to walk what feels like several kilometers all the way to the scene of the accident. And that's just in the first 15 minutes of the movie. It only gets more ridiculous from there. He gets shot, he gets stabbed, he gets into brawls, he falls from really large heights, yet somehow he's able to get up, recover, and continue on from all this violence. I'm willing to suspend my sense of disbelief to a certain extent, but not that much. The movie has its fair share of emotional moments as well, and this is where I feel Beckett's character shine the most. Beckett experiences a ridiculous amount of stress throughout this movie's events, understandably so because he has no idea what's happening to him. He has to rely on prescription medication in order to stay focused, but there's more than one instance throughout the story where he can't help but mentally break down, and this helped me to sympathize with his character's plight to a certain extent. I say certain extent because it never seems like he feels truly guilty about the accident that he's responsible for. He never ruminates over his girlfriend's death. There's never any sort of flashback scenes that shows them living together, doing things together in happier times. He actually does call his girlfriend's dad to let him know that the accident happened, but he never tells him what happened to his daughter, and he never admits to being at fault for the accident, and this made it really difficult for me to like his character at the beginning. The main selling point of this movie is that it's a chase thriller. That is to say that it involves one character being chased by another character or multiple characters that are attempting to take him down. Fortunately, I think the chase sequences in this movie are where it truly excels at. There are a ton of cat and mouse scenarios featured in this movie, and they all take place in different environments. One takes place in a mountainous forest, another takes place on a train, another takes place in a subway, and another in a city. There are a ton of grab bag scenarios featured in this movie, and it was a real treat to see them all play out. Sure, it was kind of weird how the bad guys were seemingly able to stay on top of Beckett and know where he was all the time, but I still had fun with the thrills while they lasted. It very much plays out like a classic chase thriller movie. It actually reminded me a lot of Robert Redford's 3 Days of the Condor when I was watching it. Its chase sequences may seem bland compared to other action and thriller movies today, but there is beauty in its simplicity. In an age where we see so many crazy special effects and explosions in the action and thriller genres, it's really nice to see a movie like this go back to basics. I'll take this movie's beautiful Greek scenery over an explosion any day of the week. Similar to the variety of chase sequences, I also like that this movie had a variety of characters who interacted with and helped out Beckett during his journey. There's people like beekeepers, hunters, and political activists, and they actually play a minor role in the story too. I just really appreciated how much variety this movie had in terms of content. Anytime the movie started to feel slightly repetitive in some aspect, that's usually when the movie shook things up. At this point, though, I have to be honest and say that I don't fully understand the complexity of the conspiracy that Beckett finds himself in. I didn't really comprehend this movie's events until the last 5 minutes or so of the story, and even then, I still have trouble wrapping my head around it. There is a ton of political backstory throughout the plot of this movie. There's talk of left-wing groups going head-to-head with right-wing groups, and the movie takes place in the middle of an election. There's just a ton of political exposition going on that really made it hard for me to stay focused on Beckett's journey, as well as determine which of that political stuff was important to the story or not. And with the way the movie is filmed in general, it seemed like it was making out its setting, Greece, to be a third world country of some sort, and I know it's not, even though it's had its fair share of economic troubles over the years, but with the way its houses are filmed, how its protests are carried out, and with all these political undertones spread throughout the story, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this movie takes place in somewhere like Iraq, for example, as opposed to Greece. Overall, Beckett is little more than your average run-of-the-mill thriller, but it's still fun to watch. If it hadn't been for John David Washington's performance in spite of the way his character was written, I don't think this movie would have been worth watching. If you enjoy thriller movies and are looking for something along the lines of a classic cat and mouse scenario, warts and all, I think you'd be able to enjoy watching this movie. In spite of lazy writing and some problematic tendencies associated with its protagonist, I still found him to be an oddly likable character, and the chase sequences were entertaining enough that I was still able to have some fun in the end. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Beckett. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the horror drama miniseries, Brand New Cherry Flavor. Bye bye!